Doctor Who Simulcast. Is the ABC bringing us the future of TV?
And Microsoft Surface Pro 3, is it the one tablet/notebook to rule them all? Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Adam Turner, and I'm here with a man who laughs at ice bucket challenges, Alex Kidman. Alex, what's new in tech?
NBN Co has been busy trialling fibre to the node at Umina in New South Wales northern coast, complete with cheesy videos extolling the virtues while hiding a few of the problems in the small print. At the same time, however, figures suggest that outside of Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria, the rollout has all but stalled, with only 141 homes and businesses passed since June the 30th. That's not per week or per state, that's 141 in total.
If you've been stung with exorbitant late payment fees by Telstra, Optus or Vodafone, then you might have a chance to claw some of it back. Class action lawsuits are coming against the three big telcos over price gouging on late fees, following on from similar successful lawsuits against the major banks.
Qantas and Virgin have announced that Australian gadget fans can now keep their gadgets powered up gate to gate on most Australian domestic flights, having secured the necessary clearances to do so. There are still some limitations you've got to take into account. You can't use laptops and you've got to be in flight mode. Smaller airlines such as Jetstar, QantasLink and Tiger Air still haven't got those clearances, so it's not quite every flight just yet.
Amazon's virtual currency has arrived in Australia, with the shopping giant offering a 10% discount when you convert your Aussie dollars into Amazon coins. Unfortunately, at this stage you can only spend your Amazon coins in Amazon's Android App Store, not elsewhere on the Amazon site. So, Alex, you're a little bit of a Doctor Who fan?
Just a little.
I hear that the ABC is doing something interesting with Doctor Who this year that they haven't done before.
Yeah, that's right. Now, what they did last week, as we're recording this, was simulcast the first episode of the new series starring Peter Capaldi at exactly the same time as the BBC was showing it. Now, they have done that before.
So that would be 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning?
4:50 on a Sunday morning,
okay.
Nice and early because of the time difference.
Yeah.
Because it goes out Saturday night in the UK.
Yeah.
Now, the ABC has done this kind of thing before in very limited scope with Doctor Who and with certain other things. Before, as a one-off, they did it for the 50th anniversary special, and they announced early on, we will be simulcasting Deep Breath, that first episode. What they've now done, however, is said, well, actually, we're going to simulcast the whole season. All of the episodes will go to air, first of all, at 4:50am on a Sunday, and that's quite a new thing for Australian TV. What's really interesting here is they're doing it off the back of some fairly good viewing figures. I mean, 148,000 people tuned in to watch it early on a Sunday morning. Another 710,000.
48,000 people got up at 4:50 on a Sunday morning to watch Doctor Who.
Absolutely. Don't look so confused. Don't look so confused. There's lots of us about. I wear my Doctor Who nerd badge quite proudly, and the way I tend to view that, I mean, I know what you mean. It seems a little weird. The way I tend to view it is, for me, it's a bit like the way a lot of Australians view sport. A lot of Australians kind of go into sport thinking, yes, I will get up at 3am and watch people kick a ball around the field. Well, that's never made a lick of sense to me. This is my sport.
I did that for the World Cup, so I can't really judge you here. I will, but I shouldn't.
Absolutely. You're totally allowed to be a hypocrite, but you're totally wrong. But as I was saying, the viewing figures were great. 148,000 people in the morning, 710,000 in the evening, another 62,000 viewing it on iView. Basically, the ABC said, look, here's this series. We know it's really, really widely pirated, so we're going to remove pretty much every possible barrier to piracy. You will get to see it simultaneous with the BBC broadcast. You can't really get it earlier than that.
No, that's even
better
than
Not in its full form. There was a leak of a work print of the episode, but that's a different kind of story.
Yeah.
We will make it available through the day streaming if that's what you want, and we'll show it in prime time if that's what you want as well. It removes so many of those arguments that are used to prop up piracy in Australia in one fell swoop. It's a really fascinating move for a drama series, because sport's the classic example here. Lots of sports get simulcast or very close simulcast, and people whinge if they're even 1 or 2 minutes out because of an ad break or something.
Yeah.
Not that the ABC does ad breaks, but you know what I mean. Here they've just said, this isn't sport, this is drama, but we are still going to simulcast it anyway.
That's pretty similar to what Foxtel did with Game of Thrones this year. it screened it here on a Monday afternoon as it finished screening on the East Coast in the US. So we were 1 hour behind, and I can understand why, because Monday afternoon you basically had to stay off the internet if you didn't want to know who died in Game of Thrones that week because the spoilers were so bad. Is it that much of an issue with Doctor Who? Why is it that people feel the need to watch it at 10 to 5 on a Sunday morning and can't wait a couple of hours?
It's not so much a spoiler issue early on in the season, although certainly for the season premiere, to a certain extent, nobody knew what Peter Capaldi's Doctor was going to be like.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season, because they run with a season arc, yes, that's likely to be more of a thing. It's more, and I guess it's the same with kind of sports stuff, it's more that sense of community. Of me being able to say, well, look, I've got lots of friends in the UK, and I do, who are massive Doctor Who fans as I am. We can then immediately discuss it because we've all seen it in the same time frame. The internet has made the world a smaller place, Adam. I'm surprised you hadn't noticed this.
I read about that in a newspaper, yeah. There's one big factor that you're missing, well, a big factor in some people's eyes. Your friends who are watching it in the UK are quite possibly watching it in high definition. If you're watching it here, you're watching it squeezed down to standard definition because the ABC wastes their bloody high-def channel on 24-hour news. That, for some people, will still be enough of a reason to steal it, even if they have to wait an hour to watch it.
Cry me a damn river. I mean, seriously.
I will. I care more about picture quality than your average person does. I like things in high definition.
I will eventually pick up the Blu-rays of this. I will eventually watch it in 1080p, and I get the broad point. But the thing that really amuses me around that is, in order to do that, in order to watch it in 1080p, those self-same pirates are throwing out their entire, we've got to have it immediately, we've got to have it when we want it argument. Because by absolute definition, the quickest they're going to get it is an hour or a couple of hours after the BBC broadcast. They're basically saying, well, actually, you know what? I am prepared to wait for this. And for so long, that argument has been, well, no, we can't possibly wait for programs. It's wrong. Well, look, it's being provided to you.
Well, that's the thing. Most of the arguments behind piracy usually break down, and it comes down to, I didn't want to pay for it, I didn't want to wait. When you don't have to pay for it or wait, do you think that nobody will download Doctor Who anymore?
I think it'll still happen. People will download it so that they can re-watch it. As you say, yes, a subset will go for 1080p only, and I suppose I can't really stop them. I can't really say that pirate arguments always hold up to the strictest logical analysis. What's really interesting here, though, as well, is working out how this kind of model works going forward. The ABC has this advantage in that, whilst it's probably paid a pretty penny for Doctor Who, and that may well tie into how they can simulcast it now, whilst it's paid a pretty penny, it's a public broadcast. Its pressures are different. And whether or not that flows through to a free-to-air or to a Foxtel to make sense for this kind of simulcasting, that kind of remains to be seen. That folds into that whole how do you fund TV in an age where people want everything immediately kind of argument. And again, that folds into things like whether or not people will pay at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to wait a couple of hours to watch Doctor Who. I actually wish they put, not worry so much about high definition, but put a bit more effort into the scripts. The last few seasons have been pretty average, and the new Doctor Who's going to have to be pretty good to make up for it.
Turner, you're dead to me. So Adam, Microsoft's finally made its Surface Pro 3 tablet available here in Australia. We've both been having a bit of a look and a test of the Surface Pro 3. What are your thoughts? Is the third time the charm?
I think the third time might be the charm. Now it's my turn here. I've got my big props. I know how you love your big props.
Hey, I've got mine too. Snap!
It's always one-upmanship with you, isn't it?
Always.
This one, it's got a bigger screen than the last one. It's also got a different shape screen to the last one. The screen on this one is a 2:3 aspect ratio, so it's shaped more like an A4 sheet of a paper. Where the old one, I think, was 16:9 or 16:10, which is shaped more like a movie screen. Now, that's great
pretty
if you're
heavy
watching
for an
movies.
A4 piece of paper, but yes.
Yes. That's great if you're watching movies and you're watching it in landscape mode. But when you turn it around in portrait mode, because you might want to read a document or maybe use the stylus that came with it to write on the screen, then that shape kind of feels a lot more comfortable, and it's closer to the shape that the iPad is as well. So that's something that the bigger screen, sharper resolution, different shape, the improved detachable keyboard. There's a lot of things that are better about it. Of course, it's still Windows 8.1, but
Yeah, look, I agree with you that the hardware is greatly improved. I love the new kickstand. I'm not quite as in love with portrait mode as you are. I don't find I use it all that much, and I think that's to do with the general weighting that it's still, and this has been a thing with Surface Pro for its entire existence, it's still a relatively heavy unit, even though, yes, it's lighter than a lot of competing laptops, and that's where Microsoft kind of pushes it more in laptops than in tablets. It's still it's a chunky thing to hold portrait style, whereas if I've got it set for landscape, I've got it set with the keyboard, it's a lot more kind of laptop natural, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, Microsoft pushes it very much as a laptop replacement, this one more than the last ones, and that's kind of interesting. They've even brave enough to say straight out, we reckon it's a replacement for the MacBook Pro, but you will not hear them say anywhere, we reckon it's a replacement for an iPad. And because when you compare it against the MacBook Pro...
I think you mean the MacBook Air, but yeah.
No. They say it is a replacement for the MacBook Air, yeah, but not a replacement for the iPad. They don't like to compare it to the iPad, because when you compare the Surface Pro to the MacBook Air, you can see how the Surface Pro has a lot of strengths, basically pretending to be a notebook. But when you compare it to the iPad, you can see how it's kind of not as strong when it's pretending to be a tablet. So it's a lot more expensive than the iPad, as you say. It's bigger, it's heavier, the battery life is nowhere near as good. So there are a lot of frustrations, and if you've already got your Android or your Apple tablet that you're joining up a keyboard with that, and you're reasonably satisfied with that, this is unlikely to win you away. But if you're already lugging around a notebook and you're looking for something that's a bit more tablet-esque, then this should definitely be on your list of things to look at.
Yeah, I mean, the tablet thing is interesting because it's this hybrid device, and I think it plays to one of the things, and in a way this isn't the Surface Pro 3's fault at all. The hardware's quite good. Windows 8.1 as a tablet operating system still isn't quite there. The store has lots and lots of apps, but a lot of them are really bad, and I mean really bad to a level but beyond that you see in some of the junkware that is in the Google Play or iOS app stores. There's a lot of
not just a collection of fart apps.
Yeah, no, there's scamware, there's bodgy stuff that turns up. It's not good, and Microsoft really should do something about it. But that's the software. As such, as a basic kind of consumption tablet, if you just want to watch stuff or browse the web or whatever, yeah, fine. It's it's perfectly good. I don't think it quite holds up against an iPad in the tablet stakes. It's in that premium notebook space where it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting choice to have, albeit not one that's spectacularly cheap, given that the keyboard is not bundled in with it. And that's something that actually I think Microsoft really needs to address.
This thing starts at $979, and that gets you the Core i3 model, whereas last year it would have got you the Core i5, and they still want another $150 on top. But its one redeeming feature is that it runs Windows 8 Pro, the full version of Windows, not Windows RT. So if you want, you can push aside the tiles and run whatever desktop software you want. That definitely, while it makes it more expensive, definitely makes it more useful than a Surface RT device.
Oh god, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yes, that does somewhat redress the apps issue as well in a way, because obviously you can run any Windows software. Having said that, an awful lot of Windows software does work on the presumption that you've got a mouse and keyboard sitting there, and if you're using it like a tablet and you're trying to press a tiny little red X, it can be just a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, if you're never using the Metro interface and you're only using the desktop, then you might be better off with a notebook. If you're only using the Metro or the modern interface, then you might be off with a tablet, better off with a tablet. It really is one of those hybrid, trying to be the best of both worlds things. And for some people, especially if you live a very sort of Microsoft-centric lifestyle, then it might be that sweet spot in the middle. But for other people, it's, well, I'd rather go this way or I'd rather go that way, and it might be too much of a compromise in one area or the other. So that about wraps it up for another episode of Vertical Hold'em. I think I'm off to take the bourbon and ice challenge.
Mate, that's going to sting when you tip it over your head.
Yeah, it does.